Finesse, I'm gonna let you go first. I know that you are the prop king over there. You keep an eye on that. You got your finger on the pulse all the time there. What are you seeing in the league at the moment, coming out of the All-Star break right now, that stands out to you the most?
Yeah, I mean, I think this year the books are noticeably sharp. I think especially with player props, these lines are incredibly sharp. You see a lot more hooks than you saw last year, and that's what they do, right? They're the best. They know what they're talking about. So I think one of the obvious ones is new faces, new places. KD hasn't made his debut yet, but that's obviously going to be massive. The Kyrie dynamic in Dallas. So obviously, as sharp as the books are, there's still going to be an adjustment period. Something that I've been kind of tracking and looking at is Devin Booker. So obviously, he came back, looked like normal Devin Booker. He's going to get his shots up. He's going to manufacture his points. But his assists have been super interesting to me. Bucks haven't really adjusted to that over the last 3 games. So we know what CP3 does, double machine. But over the last 3 games, Devin Booker is actually averaging more potential assists than Chris Paul is. 14.7 for D Book and 14.3 for Chris Paul. So I think that's super, super interesting. I think DB is coming off an 8 assist game. Chris Paul is coming off, I think, a 4 or 5 assist game. So CP is going to get his no matter what, especially when KD comes back. It's most likely going to be assist galore for CP, but D Book is really taking that facilitation role seriously and kind of blending his game, not always looking to score. So I think that's super interesting. And the Kyrie and Luka dynamic is super interesting as well. They're kind of piggybacking off of each other. We saw, Luka was a triple double machine before Kyrie got there. Now he's kind of taking that rebounding load a little bit more with them not having presence in the paint. And we saw Luka, I think, only put up 4 or 5 assists the other day. So kind of that back and forth dynamic, them doing what they need to do to win. So it's going to be super interesting down the stretch. But the books are going to continue to be sharp, and we're going to continue to try to find our edges.
Man, there's some really sharp looks, and with Devin Booker one in particular, because I think his playmaking is still probably the most underrated part of his game. Like, he's a terrific facilitator for other guys. Seemingly makes the right plays more often than not with the ball in his hands, able to read defenses very, very well on the fly as well. I got a question for you actually regarding D Book before we move on from him specifically. Do you consider him to be a superstar in the league, and is he a top 15 player for you? Let's go top 20 player for you.
I think if we go 20, I think we have to put him in there. I mean, we have some great players in this league. If we're going top 10, most likely not. If we're going top 15, I'd have to start listing guys out, get my pen and paper out and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know. I catch a lot of heat for saying guys, aren't superstars or guys are. I don't, he hasn't won anything, which is huge. I think he is, right. I mean, he can do. We just talked about his playmaking. He's a certified bucket. He's a dog. I love watching him play. I think CP3 kind of coming in was great for him. Yes, I think he's a superstar. I think it's borderline though. I think some people would have no hesitation. Yeah, he's a superstar, but dude hasn't won anything. So we'll see, how it goes now with KD in the mix. But yeah, I give him top 20. I'll be nice. Give him top 20. Give him the superstar label.
I give him the superstar label. I think he makes my top 15. For me, offensively in particular, he can do everything. I think, we already said his playmaking's underrated. He's a 3-level scorer. He can space the floor. He can operate in the mid-range. He can get to the bucket. He does it all, man. And his game has come such a long way over the last couple of seasons. I think CP3's done a lot to help harness that as well and develop it from a playmaking sense. For me, yeah, I think he is. But I do think he's that one player, more so than anyone else, who's always sort of on the fringe of people either have him as a superstar or they don't. And they seem pretty convinced either way. So for me, he is. And that's why I quietly confident this Phoenix thing is going to work out just fine with KD there, even though they did lose that depth and obviously lose a lot of that wing defense. But yeah, for me, there's just too many positives, especially on the offensive end, for this not to work to a specific extent. But those are the great looks. I love the Luka look as well, especially on his assists. Obviously, the sharing and the usage rate going down there, and obviously the need for more rebounding because they are just so undersized, and they got exposed obviously in a pretty big way at that end of the floor against the Lakers. But speaking about the Lakers, that's my homework review real quick. Is I just want to touch on them because I think that the books still haven't quite adjusted to giving us fair totals on this new look Lakers team in particular. Now, their pace of play has gone down now without Russ, which isn't particularly surprising. You know, the guy runs around like an Energizer bunny on cocaine out there. So when you don't have that guy pushing the tempo, things are going to naturally be slower. You're going to get a lot more half-court sets. The defensive end of the floor as well, his liability there because of his eagerness, if you want to call it that, to constantly try and get out with active hands and giving up easy buckets as a result. But also the acquisitions that they've made. Everyone has spoken about Jared Vanderbilt and what he can do defensively. I don't need to go into detail there, but it's more just the fit that provides for AD and allows him to just be that sort of free roaming rim protector again, which is what he does best. And that is his best attribute at the defensive end of the floor. Bigger bodies as well, like Rui Hachimura. I just think that, this is a Lakers team who might be defensively as good as any team in the Western Conference right now, because I don't think that there is a lot of great Western Conference defenses aside from the Memphis Grizzlies. And like I said, when you couple a great defense or at least an above average defense with a slower projected pace than what they've been playing for the large bulk of the season, if you just focus on these last 5 games, you're going to get projections that are well below market value for their total. So I think there's going to be a really good opportunity to bet on some Lakers unders, which doesn't sound great at first viewing, but if you just sort of focus in on what they are doing right now with this new look lineup, I think that there's going to be potential there, especially when they're still hanging totals in the 230s for this team. I think by the end of the season, we're going to see totals about 227, 228.5 for Lakers games. So that I think is something worth keeping an eye on. We'll see what we get tomorrow in terms of numbers. Obviously, if LeBron plays on it is another sort of caveat to add to that wrinkle. But that is probably the one big takeaway I've had. And then coming out of the All-Star break in general, unders have just been cashing like crazy, which has been great because we've been on the right side of a lot of those. Finesse, just quickly, do you think that continues the unders trend? And is it just because these games now have so much meaning, especially in the Western Conference where every single game matters from a seeding perspective in that playoff race because of how close it is? Are we going to see these high totals basically plummet in a way where the value is going to continue to be there because the pace of play is going to start to mirror something of a playoff environment versus the first few months of the season where we were getting like 105 possessions a game and guys were just going up and down the floor?
Yeah, 100% agree. I think you hit it right on the head. I think, unfortunately, as a fan and as a viewer, I think these teams just kind of flip a switch. They wait till the All-Star break. Not saying they tread water, they're not trying, but they're, second half of the year, 25, 30 games left. They definitely know. They're looking at the standings. They know kind of what they want to achieve, whether that's seeding purposes or making the play in or whatever the case is. So 100% agree. I think that heavily correlates with seeing more unders, less possessions, better possessions by teams. I think you're still going to have your over teams. Like Dallas got a lot worse defensively, a lot better offensively, a lot worse defensively. So it's that give and take. I think they'll just want to outscore people. But the Lakers are super, super interesting. If AD's healthy, he's one of the best rim protectors in the league, one of the best defensive guys in the league. And Jared Vanderbilt, I think he's going to quickly become Lakers fans. I think Lakers fans are going to love him, just the effort that he gives on a defensive end. He can hit a three when you need him to. We saw kind of all he brings last game. He almost single-handedly got them back into the game just by pure effort and defense and turning defense into offense. So it was super exciting to watch. But, yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. More meaningful games, less possessions, more meaningful possessions lead to more unders. So I think you're spot on league-wide and spot on with the Lakers.